Hello and welcome to the Pineapple Support webinar with Jasmine, King Noire and Money. Today we are going to be talking about sex positive parenting, and I'm so happy to be doing this with these three incredible people. Jasmine and King are a couple. They are both performers in the adult industry. Jasmine is also one of our therapists who's been with us from the very beginning. And Moni is their daughter. So what better trio to talk to us today about sex positive parenting while working in the adult industry. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. And thank you for providing this space for performers and, just lovers of the industry that are always looking for new ways to implement sexual behaviors and attitudes to their family. So this is going to be like a family Zoom chat, right? So you might hear some background noise. You might see, a toddler run across the screen. You might see a dog. It's our life, and we are sharing it with you. So please allow us to do that with as much grace as possible today. We are in 3 different locations. Y'all want to share where you are and what you're doing?
I am at the park with my dog and my boyfriend, so definitely not at home.
Right, because your dog and your boyfriend, no, I'm just kidding.
There.
How about you, King? Where are you dialing in from?
I am currently in Orlando, quarantining after being out shooting. So I'm on my way home in a few days.
All right. So we are all in Florida, but in different locations, tending to our multiple needs. So I wanted to keep us focused on what the people are actually coming here to talk about, which is how we have been able to navigate having healthy attitudes and behaviors within our family. Omani is our oldest daughter. She's 20 years old, just turned 20. And we also have a 16-year-old daughter, Star, and a 2-year-old son, Majesty. And we have been at this as a co-parenting couple for the last
Long time.
8 or 9 years time. No, yeah, we haven't been the kids just keep getting bigger. We do know that. We've been traveling around the world prior to COVID, having this discussion. King and I have been having this discussion for about 3 years now. And once Moni became of age and comfortable with, sharing her experience, being a part of this family, and also sharing aspects of her own personal development, we've started to get the band together and add it to the band, and we are on our virtual tour, so to speak. So for those of you that are watching, please ask questions if anything comes up for you, or if there's something really specific that you are here to get some feedback on, please don't hesitate to put that in the chat. If you're watching this recording a little bit later, you can always reach out to us either via Pineapple Support or through sending Jasmine Boo Pro Therapy, or of course, King Noire. So, and we just ask that if you have comments or questions that you have for Moni after this recording, that you continue to go through those portals that we shared, because we still like to filter and safeguard our children, even when they are 20 years old. Is that okay with you, Moni?
Oh, absolutely.
Good deal. So y'all, one of the things that we're going to talk about is how we navigate the challenges of being in the adult industry while raising children. So we've been doing sex work, I mean, King, as long as you've known the kids, and continue to this moment. And for me, it is something that became a part of our life about 10 years ago. And the kids have been along the evolution of our work. So what are some key things that you think we've done well with respect to engaging in the industry and still raising children at the same time? That's for you, King.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm not a great moderator. I'm used to the one that being asked the questions, but I'm working on it.
I think first and foremost, we made sure to let the kids know every step of the way. So for you, you came into the industry a little bit later. So the kids didn't know, you weren't in the industry from jump. So you let them know, okay, this is what I'm thinking of doing. Mom is going to be, taking some pictures. There's going to be this, each step of the way, you let the kids know what it was your intentions were, what it was you were going to be doing. And it wasn't particularly, asking for permission, but letting them know that this was a part of the growth in your life and the stages that you're interested in pursuing. So what are we all going to do from there? Like, we're going to have to make sure that we block each other all on social media, and also just letting them know so that way they're not going to learn for the first time from somebody else who's not a part of the family. So
Mhm.
whatever their responses are going to be or whatever their feelings are about it, it can be dealt with within the family first before having to deal with outsiders in regards to that.
Absolutely. How about for you, Mani? What do you think are some things that we did well as a family with respect to engaging in an industry that is definitely not kid friendly, right? That has a lot of stigma attached to it. And what do you think we did well?
It definitely was gradual. It was not like, hey, we're naked, then this is what we do now. Like, it definitely was gradual. It did go from like you took your 30 pictures, your dirty 30 pictures, and then the poll was up, and then you guys went to these cool parties, and it was very like, we're like moving into the life, and like I feel like we had the chance to move in from a small stage, and it wasn't just really overwhelming. I definitely think that you guys gave us the opportunity to speak about it and to ask questions and be a part of the things that you did. If it was me doing your makeup before you went to an event, or watching the baby while you guys are at an event, or just things like that, being able to go on the trips with you guys and everything. So we've definitely been able to grow into the lifestyle for sure.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So again, there's been, I think, in my opinion, what has gone well is the honesty and the transparency in an age appropriate way. There are conversations that Mani and I have now that we definitely were not having when she was 10, right? And there isn't the as you talked about gradually, I think that is so important. We get asked quite often, like, when is the right age to talk to your kids either about sex or about sex work? Like, what, if you're a civilian family, if the question is, when do I talk about sex? And then for families that really feel like they do have a sex positive household, but maybe my kid doesn't know that I'm also a cam model or something like that. So age appropriate conversation, like, so King, we have the 2-year-old now. And people kind of like take a step back when we say, like, even with the 2-year-old, we have age appropriate conversations. Can you talk a little bit about what that actually looks like with a 2-year-old little boy?
Yes. First and foremost, referring to everything with the anatomically correct terminology. We're not already putting shame or fear or any kind of, hangups that we would already have or that adults have onto this baby. It's not like you're gonna say terms that aren't actually going to be what the child will need to use as they grow older to not feel ashamed of their body and things like that as well. I think also, and for people who have babies, babies explore themselves. Babies are going to touch themselves. It's the first time they're seeing, feeling, or understanding their bodies.
Mhm.
So if they actually do touch themselves in their genitals or somewhere else, you can't be like, stop doing that, and like, freak out on the kid, So it's kind of just like, we'll say to the baby, we'll say to him things like, that's something you do in the shower, or that's something you do on your own time, as opposed to right now in the living room. You want to make sure that things are appropriate, but also to not put shame onto the babies or onto your kids.
And I want to add that I haven't always been a sex positive parent, right? So I think it is important to share the areas where we have not done so well. Okay, I don't want to say failed because the grade is not in yet, right? You don't get your grade on how well you parented until the end. So I wouldn't consider it a fail. I could just say that I was practicing from the way that I was raised, which was a lot of shame and a lot of secrecy and a lot of like, you know, no talking about it. So it really has even evolved in my parenting. What I feel comfortable saying to my 2-year-old now is not the same attitude, tone, and emotion that I was bringing to communicating with who we call the president of the Sex Positive Parenting Club, which is Moni, when she was a little girl. Also, some of those gender aspects that are really that are different that I've had to confront as a parent, where putting certain pressures on girls that we don't see with boys. And so I share that in transparency to those of you that are watching and feeling like, oh shit, like I was that parent, or I am that parent that says, don't touch yourself. Like, it's okay. Tomorrow you can change that. You know, you can go to your kids and say, hey, I thought about it. And actually it's okay if you do this, but let's do it within these boundaries. So wherever you are in your parenting, you have an opportunity to change your attitude and to change your behavior around parenting, around sex and sexuality, if you're willing to. So I want to ask Omani this a similar question. What do you like from being around other kids? When do they share that their parents are open to talking to them about sex?
Most of my friends, it was very late. It was very we were nearing the end of high school almost. I think that, sorry guys for the noise in the back. I think a lot of my friends, it was 16, 18, and the very wear a condom, use birth control, don't get pregnant. Like, and those are your only options. There was no alternative options. Or I had a lot of friends who were LGBTQ and their parents did not know how to even talk about that. That wasn't anything that they were open with. And I definitely think that has shaped a lot of the differences between our family and you said a civilian family, and how my friends were brought up compared to being in a sex positive household where they're more taught to be afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think also going back to what you were saying about things in regards to raising the young people, you know, it's not trying to think of the right words for it. In regards to genderizing your children, you know, like for me, I think one of the things that I've had to get over is like, you know, not always trying to, with the boy, since he's so young, he just gravitates to what he gravitates to not try and force him to be like, no, you want blue, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of whatever color he picks up and things like that. So I think that for me, as I've gotten older, it isn't something that really matters at all. If he likes pink, he likes pink, like it's a color. If he likes orange or blue or red, or it really doesn't matter. But I know when I was younger, like with my god kids, it was like, oh, if I'm getting this for my godson, it's gotta say boy on it. If I'm getting this from my goddaughter, it's gotta say girl, or it's gotta be pink, you know? So I think that that's also something that is not just sex positive, but it's allowing that to make their own choices and look at everything for what it is, to become their own human. It's like human positive, you know.
And I have to say, with the baby, I've learned that I've never had a younger brother. I've never got to watch like a baby boy grow up, and it's like the little things, like I'm painting my nails and he's asking me to paint his nails, and like the first time I was like, no, you're not allowed to have your nails painted. What are you talking about? And then I was like, well, if you want your nails to look like mine, then your nails can look like mine. If you want to put on Monty's shirt and run around the house, like, and being able, and like, it helps us. Like, I'm 20 years old and I'm learning, like, no, that is not normal. Saying, no, he can't do this, or he's a boy, he's not supposed to wear this, or even with Star. and her new haircut and everything, and just being like, these kids are perfectly normal. Like, and that is one of the things about making your household sex positive and just positive in general, is you learning little things, little microaggressions that we have no idea that we have.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for articulating that so clearly. I think one of the things that's coming up for me is that I have learned so much about my own personal sex and sexuality from my children. And oftentimes we get this idea of like, we have to teach them and protect them and keep them from, and we're not having a open communication where we're willing to learn from our children also. And I remember it was probably, I think you may have been in like 10th grade, and you were sitting at the table with Star, and you were like, yeah, well, so-and-so is like a pansexual, and I'm not really sure if he likes her or what they're doing. And I was like, excuse me? Who is having sex with pans? What's going on? Like, I didn't know. I didn't know what that meant at the time. I didn't know if I should be concerned. And then there was another conversation at the kitchen table. A lot of sex talk happens at the kitchen table. If you want to know where, do it over food. There was you were saying like, oh, and they're calling this girl a homie hopper, and I don't know if that's fair. And I was
like, you were like, what?
What's hopping on homies? Where is this happening at? Are you homie hopping? You know, and
word for word, are you homie hopping? That's what it was. Oh man.
But you know, being able to even allowing your children to have like conversations about what it is that they're experiencing, what it is that they're hearing, and being inquisitive instead of like shaming, knocking it down, and those type of things. One, it gives you an opportunity to learn yourself. And two, it creates a safe space for your kids to then later ask you questions or to share with you the things that they may be confused about. And in this situation, certainly I was the one with confusion and willing to learn, and have had a lot of growth personally and professionally, because being open to, you know, to talk to and learn from my kids as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think with that also, there's so much as a man with having daughters, you know, that we're supposed to raise our daughters in a particular way, and it's not the same way that we raise our sons, in the sense of, if your daughter has a boyfriend or girlfriend, you know, you have to protect your daughter, you have to keep people away from them, which then automatically makes it impossible for your daughters to talk to you about what's going on with them in their relationships, or what's going on with you know, their sex lives, or anything that it might actually be really, really helpful for them to have their father's perspective on, you know, or big brothers or godfathers, or whoever that male or male presenting person is in their life. And we're taught society wise, like, oh, it's your boy, give him a condom, go out there and do what you do, which is also cutting off what your son can talk to you about as well. Because let's say your son is asexual, or let's say your son isn't ready for sex. People are way more likely to try and kind of push their boy children into sex by saying like, oh, you're at that age, where's your girlfriend at, what's this, what's that? And it's like a pressure that people put on their male children. And then at the same time, for their girl children, they'll be like, you better not be talking to any boys, you know? So if they are doing something, they're gonna either sneak around about it, or be completely afraid to talk to you, when really they should be able to come to you for insight. And I think that that's one of the things that I have hopefully, you know, gotten better at through the years.
Absolutely.
With my godson, who I guess he became 18 maybe like 10 years ago now. So, you know, at that age, it was just kind of like, yeah, yo, do your thing, you know, get out there, be safe, wear a condom, but never having the conversation with him about the emotional aspects of sex. Or, you know, it's always just like, just as Monty said, don't get pregnant, you know, don't get a disease or something, right? But so many other aspects that come with sex that if you close off the avenues for conversation with your kids, you know, they're going to be dealing with these other parts that can be a lot more problematic, you know, in the long run.
Absolutely. Oh,
I feel
wow.
like I've noticed with even like with my partner the difference in how these kids end up as adults and how comfortable they are with sex, because I definitely feel like I am more comfortable asking for certain things or saying or setting my boundaries or asking him, what are your boundaries? And things like that. And I feel like if you are able to put yourself in a position of, well, I don't want my kid to ever not ask, or my nephew or my brother or whatever, to never not ask or to not be able to speak up and everything. So I definitely think being able to look at, okay, what can I do to make sure that they feel safe with talking with me makes a huge difference down the line. When they're 18, 23, 30, like I definitely think that it's something that has shaped the way certain people are in relationships and with themselves and everything.
Yeah.
Now you made a nice little entryway to talking about boundaries and limit setting and all of those things. And like, so I just want those of you who are watching to like, you know, like give me just a second, because hearing this feedback back from our adult child, when I was just saying like we don't get a grade, like I'm kind of feeling like we're getting, and I kind of feel like we're passing right now. So.
A little bit.
Like, don't get excited. But you know, one of the things that we do talk about is how do you help children understand consent? How do you help children understand limits and boundaries, and really their own measure for self-respect in intimate situations? And you know, oftentimes like King said, like when you're just giving them like the green light to go or the no, you can't do anything, we're not really helping them navigate intimacy, sexuality, even legality. You know, when we start talking about consent, we are right. We're missing a lot of opportunities because of the fear, the shame, the uncomfortableness with talking about sex for all of the many reasons why people feel uncomfortable. So I just want to share one of the things that we did as a family and continue to do. And now you're actually seeing the outcome through Mani sharing about her relationship with her partner, is that we created an opportunity for our kids to be autonomous and give consent of their bodies very, very early on. So what this looked like when Mani and Star were little girls, it was their no-no zones. Oftentimes we're raised with like being told, don't let anybody touch your breasts, your genitals, and your buttocks. But we're not told like what happens if somebody is touching your hair, especially for us Black and brown girls that get that violation quite often from a very early age, right? And not giving children an opportunity to advocate for themselves in a way that makes them feel comfortable. So what we did is with the no-no zones, there were some clear locations, right? Like their genitals, their breasts, and their buttocks that were off limits to strangers, even to me, unless I was giving them a bath in which it was very prescriptive, like, let me wash your butt, right? Sorry, Mani, but you know, it's a thing that all parents do. So, but giving them opportunity to talk about their no-no zones. And I remember yours early on, probably at like maybe somewhere between like 3 and maybe 5, somewhere between 3 and 5 was your face. You were like, that, you know,
Still don't like it.
Yeah, all the other places, like whatever, are full fair game. But my face,
fair game. It is still to this day, I do not like my face being touched. I don't touch my face. Everywhere else I am perfectly okay with. I learned what footsies at a young age, which I have learned little things like that, like I'll play with your feet and this is how we can touch right now. But other than that, I'm the most handsy person in our entire family, but I do not like my face being touched.
So that's so important, right? Because for a child that is super, super affectionate, and now a young woman that is very affectionate and very handsy, still has her own boundaries, you know? And so, King, you know, do you remember when we did the talk and somebody had like talked about an infant? And what has been your experience with boundaries with a baby and helping him understand that even he has a voice before he has words?
Yeah, he's very hot and cold. So like sometimes he'll be climbing all over me and like trying to rough me up and stuff. And then the next minute, if I'm like picking him up, he gets his little get off of me, you know? So he's sometimes he'll just be there like, pick me up, daddy. And other times he wants none of it. So, and you'll feel it. I mean, he might not be, he can say no now. So
Yes.
he will say no sometimes.
Very well.
He does not like anybody trying to pick his boogers, regardless of the fact that somehow they accumulate at a level I've never seen in any other human being ever. So he don't want nobody touching his nose, but also it's very interesting because before he could articulate and say no or shake his head no, you would feel him like, or he'll let out a scream or a cry or something like that.
And you have to be okay with, this is for parents, anything, you have to be okay when the baby says they don't want to be held, they don't want to, and obviously certain situations you need to be picked up, But if I encountered this on my birthday, I wanted to lay with the baby and have my head on his shoulder, and he said no, and I was gonna be hurt. I felt hurt. I was like, why don't you want to lay with me? But then I was like, he doesn't want to lay with you. Move on, next person. Like, and you have to learn, like, it is okay for the children to be like, I don't want to be loved up on or any of that right now, and not be hurt by those things, because they're just creating boundaries, which means they love you because they don't want to be mad that you push up on their boundaries.
Facts.
Wait, just she could take this on the road. No, that really is such a great point, great examples that you both are providing. So for those of you that are listening, kind of think about just your, without even thinking about sex necessarily, just boundaries, right? Like, what things do you like and don't like when it comes to someone being in your personal space, and how can you extend that love? I love the fact that you equated setting and respecting boundaries with love, opposed to rejection, which it tends to be kind of couched in that way. How can you extend that love to your children and help empower them so that they've already practiced in the household? And it's like telling your mom, like, you can't take my boogers out of my nose is much easier than telling a partner, no, thank you, I don't want your feet on me right now.
Kind of like picking up from that also, that goes back to teaching your kids at such a young age about the anatomically correct terminology for their bodies. And that comes into play. I'm not sure where all of our viewers are tuning in from, but there are certain parts of this country where, unfortunately, if a child goes to a teacher or goes to law enforcement, if somebody has been molesting or touching them or something like that, if they do not use the correct terminology for where they were touched, that law enforcement official or somebody will not file a complaint or follow up with the family. So like, if you're using terminology for things like Jasmine used to use pocketbook, if it's not something that they can specifically say, okay, this is a part of this child's body, they will not follow up on that. So teaching your children their boundaries and the proper terminology for their body is a weapon for them to use in their own defense as they get older, and also just something for them to use, just like Mani and Jasmine said, for when they're with their partners as well, or just with anybody. But definitely for when they're young and they need to protect themselves is so important.
For sure. One of the things I want to ask, and I know this isn't on our little sheet, but I thought about it a little bit more, especially since I know that we are talking to a lot of folks that are in the adult industry and have alternative relationships, and from the perspective of alternative relationships, not just like poly or open or swingers, just by the nature of our work, we partner oftentimes with other people or engage with other people in an intimate way, perhaps online or with our clients. And, that has been an aspect of sex positive parenting that I don't think that we get to talk about too much. But since Mani is here and, you know, we have had to explain, like, how does like dating outside of, how does your parents dating outside of their relationship, how does that feel for you as a kid? How has it influenced your relationship? Did we go about explaining it and exemplifying it well for you? Just really would love to hear your thoughts on it, because I know the people listening have some reservations about showing a non-nuclear family to their children.
Well, it's really funny because David just asked me this last night, or was it a couple nights ago, whatever. He had asked me how your relationship works, and I was like, well, this is what I know. This is what I don't know, and this is what I don't want to ever know. And being able, it is hard to put this is what you should say, or this is how any kid would handle it. But I think a lot of my comfort was because I asked you guys what certain things. Like I would ask mom, like I'll never forget, we were maybe like, I don't know, we were like young, middle aged kids, and you were going on a date with some guy, and I was like, what does she mean she's going on a date? What is going on? And so I was like, all right, whatever, like she's going on a date, okay. Then there was like another date, and I was like, what do you mean you're going? And then Mr. Son was like, yeah, I'm also going on a date. And I was like, what is going on? What are you people doing? And I could not understand what exactly was going to find. Like we had talked, and you were like, this is an open relationship, and this is what we do. This is what I want out of this, and this is what I think he gets out of it. And I was like, oh, cool, that's cool. I don't need to know anything else. It does not work for me. I know it doesn't work for me. I have never been interested in having an alternative relationship. So I haven't had all the questions, but I know enough to be like, they do what they do and everybody's happy. that is all I can measure it up to. But I definitely think, like, every time we've asked a question, you guys have answered it honestly. And it's a matter of, you obviously have to gauge what your kids can handle in terms of how honest. You should always be honest, but do you tell them everything? Do you tell them what you're doing on this date, who this person is? Because all in all, these people, if they may not be permanent in your life, you may go on a date and never see that person again, or you may go on another date, but it really isn't our concern. You made sure that we were safe. We never met anybody. We are separate from your outside relationship. So I think that is something that could be really could be difficult for certain kids, is just being like, well, where does that place us? And well, if you guys are doing that, then well, who's paying attention to what we're doing, and things like that. And I think you have to be able to say, like, this is our relationship. You asked this question. This is what it is. At the end of the night, we both are home. And that's that sort of thing. And for you not to overshare in certain things, like you guys have never overshared with us. Well, to me, I don't think that you've ever overshared. For Star, it may be completely different. She doesn't like. She barely likes you walking around the house without clothes. But that's the other thing, is that you have to gauge where your kids are at and how comfortable. Like, I feel like I have waited 20 years to say this. We have a friendly relationship, all of us. I feel like we are at the point where we have a friendly relationship where you guys are, of course, my parents, but I also feel like I'm able to talk to you in this way, where we can have a conversation about certain things. Or I could be like, how did your date go last night? And oh, what did he do? Or oh, what's she like? And like things like that. And being able to have, so like I'm 20, we have that relationship. Star's 16, she doesn't want to know any of that stuff. So I definitely think part of it is that you guys have been able to gauge how comfortable we are with certain aspects, how much we want to know, how much you're comfortable sharing. Because I've asked you questions, Mom, where I know you're like, don't ask me that.
Crossing my boundaries.
Yeah, Exactly. And so it doesn't matter. I mean, it all falls under what is your child's boundaries? What are your boundaries? And then thinking, this is what I want you to know. This is, and allowing them to kind of have, like, I think the best way to put it is to be, this is our relationship. This is what my relationship is. This is what I will be doing. If you have any questions, just ask. And I think sometimes kids will get a little bit nervous with the asking. So if it's the first time you go out, like, hey, I'm going out, message me if you need or whatever.
Mhm.
And even if it's like a little like, okay, your daughter, your son's 18 or whatever, and just messaging, hey, it's going great. How's everything over there? And that opens up a conversation. Oh, I'm glad it's going great. Or, oh, what are you guys doing? Where are you guys at? Like, that type of stuff. And I think you'll be fine if you just do it that way. You can't go wrong. If you open the door, if they choose to come through the door, that is on them. If they choose not to, then it's like, okay, well, we'll let this sit. And then maybe your third or fourth date, then saying like, do you have any questions? And just you have to reopen the door, because sometimes we won't say anything.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I know that this is recorded, but I just want to preface that she said we have a friendly relationship, but she was very clear in noting we're not friends.
We are not. That is the one thing I waited until I was an adult to be like, I am no longer a teenager. I am able to speak to you guys in a friendly way and have adult conversation. I will not forget the first time I had messaged you a sex toy, and I was like, buy it. And I was like, these are like these little conversations that lead up to that. I would never be at this point if we didn't have the relationship that I had with you guys, or I would never be at the point with Mr. Tom where we talk about certain things, and we were able to do an unboxing together. And like, I think especially for step parents, it's important for them to know that it doesn't matter where you came in. If you start opening the door, you could have a better relationship. I just think being able to be open and be like, well, this is what I'm comfortable with saying. He gives me condoms for my partner, and like just being able to have that and letting the child put that trust in you, and you guys trusting each other, really.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's it. Sex positive parenting. The proof is in the pudding. I'm just setting Jasmine. That's King Noire. Peace. Oh man,
It works,
I definitely want to invite anyone who is watching along. I see folks are watching along to please ask us questions. Obviously, we can talk about our family and our experience, but we definitely want to be open to asking or answering questions. All right, so there was a couple of things, and when you mentioned step parenting, I wanted to also talk a little bit about co-parenting, and I think really you articulated it so beautifully that, starting from wherever you are, right? The family that you're in, it may not be a biological family, it may be a blended family like ours, or you like Omani and I did not always have a sex positive relationship as mother and child. So the point here is you can have all kinds of potential challenges or things that are different the way that your family presents. They might be sex workers, you might be a step parent, you might be all of these different things, but you can still end up at the same place, which is being able to have a healthy attitude and a healthy relationship around sex, sexuality, our sexual preferences, proclivities, ideas about our body, ideas about fantasies and all kinds of things with your children, if you allow it. And I love the fact that you said you could just open that door. That's all you got to do is open the door and be willing to allow that person to come in at their own pace. I also love the idea of the same way we should do with our partners is treating our partners very, very much to who they are, not like who they should be or what it should be at this age or this point in time. The fact that I can tell and share things with you when you were 16 that I cannot share and talk to our other daughter that's 16 years old, that really is honoring that these are two individual people and that I am parenting each child, not just a, parent and some kids. Any thoughts from you, King, before we move on?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to say, like, I am just so proud listening to Mani. She made me want to shed the single solitary man tear. Um, I think you actually did make a really, really important point. Like, for example, about our unboxing or asking your mother about a toy. Um, as sex workers, as people in the industry, we should be using our expertise to help our children either A, make great decisions, B, not make the mistakes that we made when we were their age, or C, just presenting them with as many ideas, opportunities, and avenues for them to navigate this world in a safe way. So just think about that. If I was a math teacher, my kids would ask me to help them with their math homework. Sex is a part of life, and just as we said, in a respectful and age appropriate way, your kids should be able to be comfortable to come to you and ask you questions about your area of expertise. And since we are in this industry, we should be able to let our kids know, like, hey, that toy is trash, you don't want to get the toy. Or hey, you might have had that problem because you have a latex allergy, and these are some alternatives that you can use, or this is a lube that y'all want to try, or whatever the case being, that then they don't have to go through all of that trial and error and all of these other problems. So it's really about, like, you're not just a sex worker, you're a human being, and as a sex positive parent, use your expertise and use your experience in a way to make everybody's life better.
And I just want to add to that. It goes even beyond the sex. You guys, most sex workers know more about relationships because you know about alternative relationships and all of these different things. And I definitely think that even in my own relationship, I have been with the same person for 3 to 4 years now. And every time I have a conversation with you guys, you both have asked me, "Oh, how's David? How are things going?" Like, we recently have been staying with each other, like living with each other, for lack of better words. And you both have asked me, like, how's that going? What's new things? And even this man bought me a pots and pans set that I wanted for my birthday. And
Look at my face.
Even mom teaching me, like, no, that is a household item. That is something that you need to feed him. Like, that is not a gift. And like, being able to have these conversations, or even to just be like, I am really happy right now. And you guys have been there for me to say these things and to just navigate the things in a relationship that should not, I mean, nobody has to do these things by themselves. So outside of sex, you guys have been great with relationships as well.
Thank you.
So the total package.
Thank you. Yeah, those pots and pans, like, it's super, like, that's a great, it's a great item to buy for a household, especially if you are living there and eating there. But my suggestion or my thought for Omani to consider was that if it's something that also benefits him, it's not quite a gift for you.
Well, and after you had sent me that, I made him make us dinner with the pots and pans. So I didn't touch them first. I did not touch them.
Compromise. I like that.
Yes.
It's kind
So
of
we do have a question that came up. Oh, sorry, King, go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's kind of like if you get him like a hammer or a tool set or something. That's putting him to work. That's not participating.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
But the nice thing was, and she pointed it out, is that he did listen. He was able to listen to what she said.
Mentioned it once.
Right, and provide that. So kudos.
And even with him though, you guys have also been able to, like, open up your doors to, oh, let's talk, and like have been very, very inviting in that sense. So it before we get off of relationships and everything, being able to, if you are in a situation with your children where you're able to be or to have a conversation with their partner and be open in that sense, because sometimes there's certain things about me that I might not say ever, but y'all know, and we'll be like, hey, here's how you handle a certain situation, or is there any support that you need, because some of these people don't have that support or don't have parents or guardians with that knowledge. So
yeah, for sure. So this question came up. I love that we were able to talk about relationships. That's so good. Hey everyone, really great panel. You guys seem like great parents, and Mani seems like a great woman. This question is more geared towards Jasmine, but open to answers from everyone. I'm a webcam model, 8 years in, who just is starting a new career as a counselor in Florida. I work with youth primarily LGBT youth, and I'm interested in working with adults who are sex workers and poly adults. Just wanted to know if you had any general advice for navigating this transition, as I'm a little nervous being an adult model who also works with youth as counselors. Yeah, actually, so I will share, and I really think that King is really, this is an appropriate question for you to respond to as well, because you, like me, are in more than one industry that involves us working with children as well as with adults. So I think something that's really important is to really take a look at the organization that you work for, and see if there is any opportunity for you to, at minimum, be open and honest with the organization that you work with about the kind of work that you also engage in, your passion, interests, passion projects, or passion interests as well. The reason why I say that is because you have to protect yourself as well. Sex workers are under a lot of scrutiny, are under a lot of stigma, and you never want to be blindsided, especially at your place of employment, with someone finding out something about you and then using it against you. I have been fortunate to be able to straddle working with young adults, working with children, working with elderly people, and be in the sex industry and working with sex workers as well, because I have made a risky decision to just be open and honest and transparent with everyone. I have it as a disclaimer. We know kids watch porn. We know kids can find out so much about us, like just being in our presence. The next thing you know, they're pulling up, what we ate for, what we put in MyFitnessPal for lunch. And trust me, like, I've seen it. My kids have done it. They were like, huh, that person? Well, did you know? And like, they have their whole resume up. So I think, being open and honest, the same way we're talking about within family, may be very important for you to do as well within your organization, if you feel like that's a safe thing to do. And you may want to talk to your organization about what level of disclosure is appropriate, given that the children may come across your content. This may be an important time in your career to maybe scrub your social media a little bit if it is not safe for work content. For me, I don't communicate with people about sexy things unless they enter my paywall, and I take them over to an adult only space to communicate. So just trying to be sure that you put up some safeguards, so that way, if your children that you're working with find your sex work, that at least they, like, one, that they have to take some extra steps. So you're putting some responsibility on others to access your work. Second thing is making sure that there is some protocol for disclosure, and that if your students or your colleagues find your work, that you're prepared to have a discussion about it. One of the things that is important is, as I've started working with people, I'm always honest. I just want to let you know that I am also a sex worker. There's no reason why that should come into play in our sessions. But if you do see my work outside of here and it makes you feel uncomfortable, or you feel like we need to talk about it, please do not hesitate to have that conversation. I'm happy to refer you to someone else, or have the awkward conversation. So I choose to disclose early on. How about for you, King? What's been your experience with working in both worlds, so to speak?
Yeah, this automatically makes me think of the time I was supposed to be speaking at a high school in Denver, Colorado. Based on my music and activism work, I do hip hop as a tool for conflict resolution. So they were bringing me to this school, and literally we were getting lunch and about to head to the school when the organizer gets a phone call from the principal. And I was like, oh, I know what that call's about. And they were like, yes, so our kids found your Twitter page, and they found out that you also do porn, which was not something that I withheld. It was something that I shared, and the organizers knew, but I guess the school didn't read the bio up until this point. The funny thing is, they were like, we want to ask, before King gets here, would he be comfortable answering questions that the kids have regarding sexual health and, um, just relationships and sex, as opposed to just doing the creative writing class. So in that case, it wound up being something where they were like, oh shit, we can actually use this to have a conversation that these students were not comfortable having with their teachers or their guidance counselors or the principal, who then on top of that decided that they were going to try and stay in the class. I was like, I definitely need another adult here in the room, but they're not comfortable having this conversation in front of the principal. And some of those students shared some really, really deep, deep things with me, and really needed somebody to have these conversations with. And unfortunately, in our school system, these conversations aren't had beyond just the don't have sex or here's a condom and we're not going to have these conversations. So in that case, it did work out for good for everybody. But there have been other situations where people were like, we would love to have you here because of your activism and your music, but we can't have you here because you do porn. So I agree with Jasmine to speak to your organization ahead of time and find out where they stand on it. And it might be a time that you have to decide which of these things is what you want to pursue and how you can pursue them both at the same time, or, kind of like what level you'll be able to do both at the same time.
Thank you for that. So believe it or not, we have made it to the end of the hour. This has been so fulfilling for me personally to be able to sit with my family and talk about one of my favorite subjects, is sex. And obviously it's super important just to have just some family time. Like, I mean, we told everybody they were just joining in a conversation, and this is kind of like what our catch up would sound like in maybe not as many sentences and not like giving each other space not to talk over each other and all that good stuff, but this is really how a sex positive family interacts with each other, the kind of questions and topics that we find are important, and so I hope that you got something out of listening to our conversation. And I also hope that you continue to follow our journey. We have a page on Instagram called Sex Positive Parenting. You can also look up the hashtag porn and parenting, and you will find some of our other work. On the Sex Positive Parenting page, we share really the normalcy of being sex workers in the industry and living with some very, very interesting characters that we call our children. As well as hearing their thoughts and attitudes about things. If you are still, after today's conversation, having a hard time formulating what this conversation might sound like with your child, maybe it is just letting them see a little clip from one of our porn and parenting pages, or having them sit and listen to a couple of minutes of this Zoom and then saying, do you have any questions? How do you think it was to hear those parents talk to their kids about sex and vice versa? So please feel free to use this engagement as a tool in your household. Maybe it is with your partner that you want to have a listen back to it and think, share with each other the things that you agree to, don't agree with us on, ways that you want to implement. So those are my final words. Monty, King, any final words before we jump off of today's webinar?
I just want to say thank you for everybody who came and listened to us do what we do every day. And to really just, I mean, if you have questions, ask. We don't know everything. You don't know everything. Ask.
Awesome.
Word. I just want to say thank you all for for tuning in, and take time to love yourselves and love those that are close to you. And, you know, if love is the reason you're doing it, you can't go wrong.
Love that. All right, y'all. See you soon. Y'all
Peace.
too. See y'all soon too. All right. Bye.